for joining us for our webinar session today. We'll be looking at QuickBooks 201. So I know many of you joined us last week for our 101 sessions. You already know the drill, but do want to go through just a few things before we really jump in today. So first off, I'm Hannah Curtis. I'm a coordinator with the Small Business Development Center. We offer free one-on-one consulting services, which are happening remotely right now. And we do actually have a specific QuickBooks consultant that can help with any specific questions that you have maybe after today's session. So I'll put her link to schedule in the chat here in a bit. Her name is Carol Johnson. So that's a great way to kind of tackle some of those more nitty-gritty questions that you might have, because we're going to go through some of this overview information today pretty quickly. But we will also be recording today's session. As I say, we're going through this quickly, but you will be able to look back at the recording to access any of the information. So do not fret if you feel like you're scrambling to get every detail down. I'll send out a follow-up email this afternoon with the link to the recording. There's also a handout to help you follow along today's session. You can access that in your GoToWebinar panel under the handouts section there. So also today's webinar is made possible by our partnership with the City of Westminster. So we're so thankful for that partnership and being able to put on these webinars together. And they actually have some really great resources on their website through the Economic Development Department. So I'll also put a link to some of their upcoming programming, so you can stay up to date on what's coming up, what could be helpful for your business. We'll drop that in the chat here shortly. I think those were most of the details we need to go through. We will be taking questions throughout the session today, so feel free to put those into the questions tab again on your GoToWebinar panel. We have Colleen with us from APIS Business Solutions who will be answering those as we go. So thank you so much, Colleen. And our presenter today is Susie Schutz. She is co-founder of APIS Business Solutions and EL3 Hub. So we're so thankful to have her time and expertise today. And Susie, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Hello, everyone. From my screen share, you can see an image of QuickBooks Online. So I want to remind you that today I'm going to focus using QuickBooks Online as the example. But I want you to know that if you use the QuickBooks desktop version, or if you're thinking about using the desktop version, that a lot of the functionality is absolutely the same. You just find it in a little bit different place than what I'm going to show you on the QuickBooks Online. So no matter which program you're using, you ought to get good information out of this. And as Hannah talked about, we'll try to get that in the screen. We have the QuickBooks Online Basics 2 workbook that I gave you. This is just so that you have reference. After this presentation, it's very quick, very fast moving, and a lot of information. So it's something for you to refer back to, and maybe be able to take notes as we go along. There's going to be maybe a little bit more information sometimes in the workbook than I'll be able to talk about. It's only 17 pages long, so it's a quick read. It has lots of pictures, but I think it's a great thing for you to reference after watching or being a part of this webinar. So let's get started. I think really what I wanted our focus on today to be for you to be able to make sure that your QuickBooks is set up in a way that helps you make strategic decisions in your business every day. It's also a great tax preparation tool because you're recording all of your information, but I always say that you pay your taxes once a year and you make financial decisions every day, maybe every week in your business. So my focus will be on how to help you make sure that your accounting software is set up in a way that it's helpful to you in running your business and being strategic, and then also where to look on some reports to make sure that the information you're basing these decisions on is accurate. So let's get started. The two lists that we're going to go over today are the chart of accounts and products and services. And I'll go into a little bit more as to why that's so important. I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on the chart of accounts or the list of accounts. And on the page 2 of your workbook, I'm going to share an image with you. Every account in QuickBooks, when you're putting information and you're assigning financial data to an account, it shows up on a report for you. And the two sort of very important financial summary reports where all of you can't hear.
It's two people have asked if there's audio. I'm trying to get my sound on.
Hannah, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Maybe try just pressing your mic button on and off and see if that helps with anything. I mean, I'm not having any audio issues, but.
Okay, now I turned it off and turned it back on.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're getting some input that we are hearing you well. So sorry if there were any issues for anyone in the beginning. I think we can carry on, and please feel free to type in if you continue to have those issues and we can try to troubleshoot.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Hannah. I appreciate that. And thank you for letting us know that you had a problem so we can try to fix that for you. So again, there's all of the financial information that's entered into your QuickBooks file ends up or lands on one of these reports, and so sometimes it's good for you to know where, if you enter information, for instance, about what you sell or your revenue, if you know that, okay, if I want to go check that information, see if it was recorded correctly, then you know that you can go to the profit and loss report to find that, to be able to see the information that you entered. So this is a good reference for you going forward. And then back to the QuickBooks. So with the chart of accounts or the account list, the way that you access that is going through the gear. And let me see if I can make my screen a tad bit bigger there. So with QuickBooks, there's always 3 or 4 different ways you can get to the same thing, but I'm going to give you kind of some quick, easy ways to get there. So through the gear, you can go to the Your Company column, and right here is chart of accounts. So that's one way to access the chart of accounts. And that's also on page 4 in your workbook. Again, another way you can go is through the accounting center. You have chart of accounts. So there's different ways to get where you need. But then this will show you your list. And what I want to stress here is that you want to make sure that this account list represents your business and how you like to think about your money or organize your financial information. So if you have a checking account, savings account, all of the different bank accounts that you have, you want to make sure that if it is solely used for business, that you are tracking that in your QuickBooks file. So you want to make sure that you have an account set up to do that. And what I think a lot of times we don't know what that list, what our chart of accounts or that account list should look like or what needs to be on there. So I always suggest that you make a list of what things are important to you, like probably sales is important to you. How do you want to see your sales? You can have multiple income accounts. So I want you to think about how do you, are there revenue streams that you need to track within your business? What would those revenue streams be? Maybe you offer services and you sell products. So perhaps you want to have an income account that is for products and one that's for services. Maybe you want a little bit more detail with that. So perhaps what you want is that you have a number of different types of services that you offer. So you might want to create a group or a subgroup that tracks all the different types of services. And think big picture, because the chart of accounts, what it does is it helps you summarize your financial information. There's other ways to get more detail of the actual, to see more information about how you got to your sales number. But think about sort of what's the big picture that I want to see. And when we go through the financial statements towards the end of the presentation, I think this will be a little more clear for you. But again, make a list for you of what revenue streams are important for you to keep track of, for you to be able to know. We have a marketing strategy or sales strategy, and it was focused on selling adult bicycles. So do you want to, as opposed to skateboards, let's say you're in the sports industry, so then maybe you want think about how you need to track that. And what type of bike you sell might be there's another way to track that, but do you want to know that you sell bicycles? So again, think in your business how you would like, or how it would help you make financial decisions on how that account is set up. Another way to think about it too is not only what you sell, but how you spend your money. So I want you to think about what expense information is important to you. So if you have employees, would it be helpful for you to just have one expense line that captures all the employee expenses? Or would you like to be able to see, well, how much of that employee expense is wage or salary? How much of it is payroll tax? Do you offer benefits? Maybe there's an HR component, maybe provide uniforms. So you can have a main grouping that's employee expenses, and then you can have sub-accounts that help you keep track of the different types of expenses. And why is this important? Let's say you're trying to do a budget or a projection, or maybe you want to bring on a new employee. By having some of that employee expense detail broken down a little bit for you, it's a reminder for you. Don't forget, not only do you have wages and salaries to pay, but you also have there's payroll taxes. So it will help you think about how you're spending your money in your business, and that will help you manage spending the money in your business better. I'm going to show you an example of, so if I want to create a new account on my list, be very mindful that there's a lot of accounting information that you need to know beyond the information that you know about the daily operations of your company. So here's an example of setting up a new account, and I got that from the new button. And so one of the things QuickBooks wants to know is what kind of an account is it? So remember on that visual of what accounts show up on the balance sheet and which accounts show up on a profit and loss report. This is the kind of information that QuickBooks needs to know first, is what type of account is it? So if you don't know very much about accounting, a bank account, that's easy for you to maybe figure out, or a credit card, that's easy for you to figure out. But what's the difference between a fixed asset and other current asset, something like that? Those are questions you may not be able to answer. So I would strongly suggest that when you're creating this report, or excuse me, this account list, and this account list is this dictates how you're able to see the summary and the detail of the financial information about your company. So it's super important that you get it right as quickly as you can. So this is a great time for you to ask for help. You can do that by having an appointment with Carol Johnson and having her go through an account list with you. QuickBooks, when you first set up the account, it'll say, well, what industry are you in? What kind of tax structure are you? And then it will give you some a suggested chart of accounts, and that can be a great starting point, but don't think of it as your only choice. This is your opportunity. If you're already in business, look at the account list that you're having, look at what your reports look like to you, and then ask yourself, am I getting the kind of information that I need from the way that this account list is set up? And if not, you have an opportunity to make a change. If you're not in business yet, or if you haven't started using an accounting system and you just want to try to get it set up right to begin with, again, this is an opportunity for you to think about what kind of, as money comes in and money goes out, how is it important for you to try to be able to see that information so that you can make good choices with your business. So this is, and here's where I have the example where you can create those subgroups. So you have a lot of options. Just make sure that you get the help that you need in order to get that set up right. The other thing I think about the chart of accounts is that as your business grows or as time goes by, your business model might change a little bit. And so be mindful to know that you can make changes to this as your business changes. Again, you want to make sure that this account list is the most important list, as far as I'm concerned, as a business owner, to make sure that you get reporting that's helpful for you. So always keep an eye on it and make sure that it's servicing, or it's giving you the best reporting that it can. And you'll see, just if you have QuickBooks online and you're trying to figure out, well, is my existing accounts, are they even kind of in the right category? Every time you change and you look at a new account type here, it gives you a little bit of an explanation, but then also you have to know the detail type. So this says, I want to record that I'm purchasing furniture. So again, just know that you have lots of choices. This is your company, and you should get the reporting that you want. I would also mention that if you have gone through the process of creating a budget or a projection for your company, you want to make sure that the line items on your budget and your projection, that they relate or maybe even are exactly the same as your account list. That way you can, when you look at, if you want to, one of the report options you have in QuickBooks is you can do a budget to actual report. So if you make sure that everything in your budget matches the way that you've told QuickBooks to capture your financial information, now you have another great useful report where you can look and see how well did we think we were going to do and how well are we doing.
I have a question.
Yes.
How hard is it to switch from a desktop version of QuickBooks to an online version for an established company?
That's a perfect question. So the question was, how easy is it to go from desktop to QuickBooks Online? And it's pretty easy. There are some certain steps that you need to take to make sure that when you do the change, that all of your financial data transfers over accurately. But on the desktop version, there's a way for, and I don't, off the top of my head, I'd have to look, but there is an option where you can say that you want to convert your file to an online version. And I also think that there is a way when you purchase the online version where it'll ask you, do you want to import a desktop file? And the great thing about that is that you don't lose any of that, the detail that you have in your original desktop file. There's some things that are not going to transfer over, and you can get a help, look on help for QuickBooks, and it'll, when you're looking at doing that conversion, it will tell you exactly which things are not going to transfer over. I know one of them is the way that you have if you have put a lot of effort into maybe creating an invoice template, that template does not does not transfer over, but the financial, your financial data will, your chart of accounts will, that sort of thing. So I hope that was helpful. So I think the next thing, and again, this is fast moving, so the next list that I think that is super important for you to look at is your the products and services. The reason why you use products and services is that, and it takes a minute, there we go, and I'll say new, so I want to add a new one, and this is showing me the different types of items that I can set up within QuickBooks to track even more details. So the chart of account is a summary of what you sold by revenue stream or by income category. If you want to get to into the details of what you sold, so I may use the example of a bicycle. So if you want to know exactly which model it was, maybe what color it was, what size it was, then you can set up an item and get even more detail. Items, if you want to track inventory in QuickBooks, you have to use items, and it's a great way to do that. And here, when you click on that new button and you look at the items, it gives you a little bit of a explanation of what you would use that particular type of item for. So again, I would strongly suggest that if you're not real familiar with QuickBooks, that this is a great time to either talk with Carol at the SBDC, or to go talk to your accountant or someone who is very familiar with QuickBooks Online, and ask them to help you figure out how to set up one of these items. So I'm going to give you an example here. So the item type is service. I can give it a name. I can track SKUs. I can import a picture if I want, or an image of that. I have lots of, this is the categories, so I can create different types of ways to track what this item is sold for. And then I can put, if I sell this item to customers and I want an explanation to be on a sales receipt or on an invoice that comes out of QuickBooks, I can always add a description. I can put in what the sales price is normally if you have set prices. And then here is where I have to know which income account, so which revenue stream that I want that sale to report to. I can say whether it's taxable or non-taxable. And then I also can, if I want to keep track of not only what I sold, but am I making a profit off of everything that I sell, a gross profit? So it means I haven't paid all my bills yet, but at least I'm selling everything for more than it costs me. Then I can also use this same item to track sales and also to track costs. So that can be really helpful if you're trying to figure out, again, am I selling everything for more than it costs me to be able to provide that to my customer? And I'll show you a quick example of in reports. And I'm going to see if I can find the sales and customers. See if I can find the item profitability report. And I may not be able to right off the bat, but there is a report then that you can run that helps you, if you go through the effort to use those items to record sales, and also every time that you record an expense or a purchase, then there is a report, and I'll be doggone if I can find it right now, but there's an item profitability report that you can run. And so this is, the more information that you put into QuickBooks, the more information you can get out, but you want to work with someone that can help you understand what all of those options are, so that you're putting the data in to begin with to get the reports back that you want. So, and then this leads us to our reports. And on page 8 of your workbook, what I tell you is think about when you're trying to figure out what report should I look at to get the answers I need. You can ask yourself some questions. Is the company profitable? Am I managing the finances correctly? Do I owe money to people? Do people owe money to me? So there's, if you write down what your list of questions are, and then you can work with an accountant or a QuickBooks specialist to help you find the reports on the list. Then they can tell you, they help you understand what sort of information, what level of information you need to put into QuickBooks in order to get those answers out of the software. So a lot of what I want you to think about today is start making lists of information that's important to you, and then figuring out how can I utilize the software. So one of the things too is sometimes we don't even know what we don't know, or we know we want some information, but we can't think of everything. So a really good way, if you're already in QuickBooks, is go to the Reports Center, which is here, and just scroll down and look at all the report options that are available to you. And here in the business overview, this is where it gives you the most common reports that you need to know from that big picture. How well is your business performing? And so I would say, again, look at that and see, go down through the entire list and see what all of your options are, and find out what reports are important to you, and then find out what information you have to enter into QuickBooks for those reports to populate correctly and be useful to you. So the first report we're going to talk about in the business overview section is the profit and loss. And so here's the profit and loss option here, and I'm going to pull up a sample for you. And well, actually, I'm going to skip to page 10, then we're going to go back to page 9. So in the profit and loss report, what it does is it tells you over a specific period of time. So this is from basically this year to date. It tells me how profitable is the company, or why am I profitable. So this, you can see here, I'm going to go a little bit slower. Here, I talked about sub-accounts and accounts like revenue streams. So this individual, this is a landscape and design service company, and these are all the different things that they felt were important for them to be able to see the big picture of how much money are we making off design? Are we giving discounts? We have landscaping services, and you'll see there's a down arrow here, which is telling me that there's sub-accounts there. And part of design services, they have job materials, and here's the different types of materials that they like to track. And then see how it totals materials for them, so they can have detail about the types of materials, and then they can have the total. How much are we spending on materials? Same thing with labor. They have a couple different ways that they're tracking what their customers are purchasing from them, what kind of labor, and then it tells them what their total labor is that the customers are buying from them. And then if I want, I can just collapse. I don't need to see all that detail. So just show me on landscape services, how much am I making off materials and labor, and there's my total. So once I put that detail in, I can kind of manipulate the reports. And then let's say I want to know, well, how did I get this design income? Where did that come from? I can drill down. So when the little hand there is telling me that I can drill down, and I can look in this report, and now I can see exactly who purchased from me. how did they pay? Was it an invoice, a sale receipt? When did they purchase it from me? So I get a lot of really good information about the details of the income. So you have lots of reporting options. So again, think what would be helpful for me to know about my company. And then that way you get the best use out of the report. So again, this is telling me all the different, how I made money for the company for this particular period of time. There's my total income. And then it's telling me what all my expenses were, tells me what my net income is. So what am I gonna have to pay taxes on? So there's a lot of really, really good, you can get a lot of good information. If your business is simple, don't overcomplicate this list, perhaps. If you are just new to business and you're just really trying to get grips and understanding of how your company works and what expenses there are for it and how you're making your money, then maybe your list is going to be a little bit longer, your account list, and then maybe you will as you go, as you grow as a business owner and as your business changes, you can make some changes to this list too. But try to get it as close as accurate as you can for where your business is right now. This is such an important tool for us as business owners to see how are we making our profit. So then I'm going to go back to the report list here. I have a little back button there. And then another very important report that I want to share with you is the balance sheet. So the balance sheet is the report that tells me the financial position of the company. It's a summary of the overall financial position of the company. And it's organized in a way that helps me know what I have, which are assets, and liabilities are what I owe. And then what's left over is my equity. That's me as the business owner. But again, you want to make sure if I'm looking at all of this information, this helps me know, do I have enough money to pay my bills, or is enough money going to come in later on? And we're going to go into some more reports on that too. But this tells me overall, as from a business owner, how well is my company performing? So if there's an account on here that doesn't make sense to you, then you need to ask whoever helped you set up the account, or maybe you just took what QuickBooks automatically assumed you would like, and it's just not very helpful. It's not giving you enough detail. Then you can go in and you can make some changes to your account to make sure your account list, to make sure that you get the information that you need as a business owner. So the balance sheet is another super important report that I want you to become familiar with. Everybody looks at the profit and loss because that's a little bit easier to understand, but I really want you to make sure that you're also paying attention to the balance sheet. Again, that's sort of your report card at any, notice how the balance sheet says it's as of May 18th, as of today, how much money do I have in the bank? Who owes me money? Then I can go down and I can say, who do I owe money? So it gives me a lot of really good information, and it can be a little bit of a cash flow management tool, kind of step one in that. So make sure that you pay attention to the balance sheet. And I do want to point out here that I can customize this report. I can change the period I'm looking at. So if I wanted to see, well, how about last year when I closed out the year? So I can look through all the different options of what my reporting options are, but I can say, let's look at last year. And then I tell QuickBooks to update. And now it tells me as of December 31, what was the financial position of the company. So you have some customization choices there. I think the next report that I want to go into for you is I want you to look at, if you are invoicing someone, and so that means you perform the work and they're going to pay you later. then I would think that you want to be able to have a way to track and make sure that you have a current understanding of who owes you money, so that if you need to do some collections, you can, if something's getting more than 30 days old, you need to give them a call or some kind of nudge and ask them to pay you. So you can go to the accounts receivable aging, and that means that I let somebody buy something on account with me and I'm going to receive money from them. So if I look at the accounts receivable summary report, and again, that's under, it's kind of logical. If you think about the list, the group is that's who owes me. And so here, what this report does is it lists for me everybody who owes me money, and it tells me, are they current? So this means if you were in the first session when we talked about setting up customers and we talked about setting up what their payment terms are. So in this case, this would, if you put that information in about the customer, that every time you send them an invoice, you expect them to pay within 15 days, within 30 days, whatever that time frame is, then QuickBooks will help you keep track. Every time you create an invoice for them, it'll automatically assume that you expect payment within a certain amount of time, and then you can run this report as of today, and you can say that on here that the majority of your customers are current, so you're just waiting for them to pay you, but they're not late. This is telling you maybe these people are starting to get a little long in the tooth. Maybe they need a phone call. Over here, the 31 to 60 days, that's telling me, gosh, why haven't they paid me? And it's almost 2 months now, and that doesn't make sense. So I need to call them. I need to find out why they haven't paid. And then again, anytime I have this, the little pointing finger, that means I can drill down and I can see more information. So here I want to figure out, well, I know that Bill owes me money, but I don't know for what invoice or why. I don't have specifics. So anytime I'm in a report, I can drill down and I can get the information, and it tells me that there was an invoice from March, and it's not telling me what I sold them. It just tells me when, and that they were supposed to pay by the 4th of April. So then if I click on the actual invoice, because I can drill down again because I have that little finger there, now I can see exactly what was on the invoice. So I have lots of ways to get the information that I need. One other report I want to show you quickly about accounts receivable. And so again, so I'm going to go to reports, and I'm going to go back to who owes you. So that's who owes me. And the other one I can do is I can do an open invoice report. So in QuickBooks, look at all the options I have of ways to find out different information about people that owe me money. So I can go to this open invoice report, and now it's a little bit different than the aging report that I looked at first, because now it's giving me even more detail about. So again, it's just at the invoice level, it's telling me the date, what the terms were, when it was due, and how much they owe me. I can always drill down and find more information. But this is another, so think about all of the different ways that I can, and I can go back to report lists. That's a quick way to get me back to where I was. But here are a lot of different ways for me to find out who owes me money, or different things about how they owe me money. The other report that I want to go over is what you owe. So this is if someone has extended you credit, a vendor is giving you credit, and you want to keep track that, well, I got the bill, but I don't need to pay it for 15 days. So maybe for cash flow purposes, I want to know that I owe the money, but I don't need to pay it yet, so I'm not going to pay it until it's owed. So what I can do is I can use QuickBooks and I can enter bills. Just like with customers, I can put in terms of when my vendors expect for me to pay them. And then I can look and I can run reports to see who do I owe money at any given time. And again, it's going to do, because it's an aging summary, that means it's going to put it in different columns to let me know how current or how overdue a bill is. So when I look at this report, then if I've got one out here, maybe I need to, this is telling me that PG&E, that I've owed them money and it's almost 2 months late from when they expect me to pay them. So I can drill down and I can look at the bill. I can see the actual date of the bill. The other report that I can do, just like with the customers, is there's another way that I can see who I owe money, and that's to this unpaid bills detail. So I've got open invoices for customers, and I have bills I haven't paid yet. And on that open unpaid bills page, now I have more information, just like I did with the customers. I have the actual bill date. Now this is only going to work if you're mindful when you do the data entry, and if you're entering bills so that you can keep track of them to pay them later. You have to put in all the right information in order for these reports to be helpful. But in this case also, when I set up the vendor, when I was setting that up in that vendor profile, I put their phone number in. So now I can run this report and I can go, gosh, so here's my insurance agency. I need to pay that bill. It's past due by 23 days, so maybe I should give them a call, and look, bing, there's their phone number. So just think of it as a really super helpful database too, so that you're not having to go to the filing cabinet or search through your emails or your contact list and try to find their telephone information, that sort of thing. And I'm going to show you really quick on entering the bill. So here, every time when you're in QuickBooks, if there is a field, these are all your fields, a place for you to put information. The QuickBooks, because I set up the vendor and said, hey, I need to pay this particular insurance agency says you have 10 days to pay the bill from the date of the bill. So I set that up automatically, and as soon as I put in the bill date, QuickBooks will automatically calculate the due date. If I haven't set up terms, but the bill tells me when it's due, I can just manually put that information in myself. If you need to track their bill numbers to you, or the invoices that they're sending to you, because it's their invoice, it becomes your bill. If you want to track the unique identifier, the number that they've given to then you can put that bill number in here. That way when you call them, you can tell them that I received a bill from you. It was dated on April 15th, and it's bill number 423. It's for this amount of $241.23, and you can then talk to them about how you're going to pay it. But anyway, it gives you all of the information that you need in order to be able to know who it is that you owe money. But this information is only going to be in there if you understand, as you're setting things up, what kind of information you might want later, and then how you're going to utilize that information. So if all you know is, gosh, it would be really helpful if I knew that, but I don't know how to accomplish it, then put that on your list of questions and come in for consulting, or ask your current bookkeeper or your CPA and ask them for that, if they can help and train you and guide you in that. And then QuickBooks also has great help menus, videos in the help section to help you learn that. You can YouTube, you have lots of ways. And those images, just so you know, that those explanations were on page 12 of the workbook that I gave you. So the next thing that I want to talk about that to me is super important is, if you're going to rely on the profit and loss, on the balance sheet, and as managerial reports for you to help you run your company, to make sure that you're handling your finances correctly, and that you're also making the profit or have the sales volume that you expected, the only way that you can know those reports are correct is if you reconcile all of the financial information that's coming in from the bank, that's coming in from maybe credit cards. So you have to make sure that you trust the information on those reports. And the way that the first step that you do in that is that you should reconcile your bank and your credit card account. And on page 14 and 15 in the workbook, I've given you a little bit of sort of tips on how to go through that reconciliation process, because we don't have time for me to show you that. But I do want to show you that once something has been reconciled, how do you know? So if you did it yourself or if someone else did it for you, how do you know that they reconciled it right? There's a report that you can find, that you can go to. And there's a couple different, and it's a reconciliation report. There's a couple different ways that you can get to that. I think sort of one of the easiest ways to do that is to go from, if you go to the banking center and then you get to that, you click on that, the account that you want to look at, the first thing you need to do is look at your bank feed center and make sure that everything within that period, so if we're at the end of May and I look and I still have some May transactions that haven't been entered from the bank in the bank center, then I wonder if all the information is in the QuickBooks, and so that the reconciliation, if they've already done the reconciliation, why is there still stuff sitting in the bank center? So I would first want to make sure that I felt confident that all the information was entered. Then I can go to the bank register, and from the bank register I can say, well, I want to reconcile. And what's the faster way to get to the
reconciliation?
Yeah, I think it's
the gear.
From the gear. Okay. So, and then I can get onto the reconcile screen. I can also go here and I can look at reconcile. And then I get to this screen and I'm going to skip over this. Let's do it later. And here I have history by account. So this, it's a little convoluted, it's a little buried, but this is where I can look, and there's nothing unfortunately on this one, but I do have an example on page 16 in your workbook, and what it would do. So this, if I look here, this tells me nobody's ever reconciled they didn't reconcile the checking account, they haven't reconciled the savings account because there's no listing here. So that would be my first clue that, holy cow, I don't think I can trust all of my financial reports, because nobody has made sure that what went in and out of the bank, what went, all the activity on my credit cards, they haven't made sure that all of those details were entered into QuickBooks correctly. So, but then what it would do is on this list, it shows you, it'll tell you when the last statement ending date. So then I can drill down and I can look at a reconciliation report, and I am going to change the screen for just a second. I don't know, let's see. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to go back to practice. And I want to show you an example of a report. And next time I'll do it with the picture. Oh, that's what I can do. All right. I'm going to open up the image in the workbook for you all so that I can show you that a little bit better. Are there any questions while I'm pulling this up, Colleen? And okay. All right. You get to see all my fancy stuff. Okay, so let's look at the image here, because there's things, not only do you want to look at what was reconciled, but what wasn't reconciled. So, and that's super important. We see that a lot with clients where they have had the where they think that their accounts are fully reconciled, and then when we look at the account reconciliation report, then we notice that that there are things that are still outstanding. So I'm going to make this image bigger for you all. So part of the reconciliation report, as you work down through the bottom of the report, there is a section that says uncleared checks. So this is where you need to look and see, is there anything within the period, the banking period, so that you always reconcile your account to match exactly your bank or your credit card statements. So whatever their beginning and ending date is, the reconciliation needs to match that same period of time. So in here, let's say that I have reconciled my account through, let's just say it's through the end of May, and there's still checks out there, that expenses that were recorded back in February that haven't cleared the bank, that would be an indication to me as a business owner that maybe the reconciliation wasn't done correctly and these didn't get checked off, they got missed. It could tell me that there was duplications and these need to be cleaned up. Maybe if I wrote a check to someone and they haven't cashed it yet, I want to give them a call and ask them, gosh, I wrote you a check back in February and I noticed it hasn't cleared the bank yet. Do I need to reissue you a check? You can do the same thing. There's another one for uncleared deposits. So that's another really important part at the bottom of the reconciliation report. And you want to see if there's anything that I call long-standing. So it's you know, there's always a little bit of a timing difference of maybe a week or 2 weeks from when you maybe mail somebody a check and when they actually cash it. But once that starts to be a longer period of time, there may be a data entry issue. And so if I have expenses recorded that are never going to clear the bank because they're a mistake, then my profit and loss statement is going to overstate what my expenses are. It's going to understate what my profit is. So I don't have a very good idea of how well my business is truly performing, because there's information in there that just simply doesn't belong. Same thing with deposits. This is if I have deposits that I said, I told QuickBooks that I received money from a customer and I took the money to the bank, or and I told QuickBooks that was on February 1st and we're at the end of May and the bank hasn't recorded that deposit, either the bank lost the deposit, maybe I asked someone else to take the deposit to the bank and they forgot it and it's sitting in their car, or maybe there's a duplication in QuickBooks and I need to clean that up because now I don't really know how much money I have in my bank account, and that also would tell me that maybe my sales are not recorded accurately. So it's really important that when you're going through when you're thinking about running your business and how you're going to use QuickBooks, the first thing that I want you to think about is, I'll go back to the sample company, is again, make sure that that list that you created to record all your financial transactions, make sure that that matches your business. Then I want you to look at, as you start to enter financial data, look at all the report options that you have to see how your company is performing based on that list. If you don't like the reports the way the information is presented, then talk to someone and see if you can make changes to that list in order to get better reporting. And then the final thing you have to do is, in order to be able to trust those reports, you need to make sure that the proper reconciliations have been done. So I want you to open up your bank statements and your credit card statements. And then when the reconciliation is done, then you need to compare it to the reconciliation report for each count for each month, and make sure that there aren't things that would indicate to you that some cleanup needs to be done. So do we have questions, Colleen?
So can QuickBooks handle Colorado's complicated sales tax payable?
Oh, that's a lovely idea. So Colorado sales tax payable. I would say that the online version is getting better at it. I don't think it's, we always use for our service, we have some clients that have, I have someone that I'm working on that I'm going to probably do 25 sales tax returns for today for one company, and we use QuickBooks Desktop to do that. We had to set it up in a special way to make sure that that everything is reporting correctly for the different jurisdictions you talked about. He has up to 50 non-physical locations where he delivers to in the state of Colorado. So that means we have possibility of maybe 50 different sales tax reports just for the state of Colorado. And so we've made that QuickBooks is set up, made sure that QuickBooks was set up to do that. I will tell you, I haven't worked with the online as much with that. I do know that it's really good about it's doing what I've seen, the address lookup. So when you set up a customer and you tell QuickBooks the address, then it will look up the address and record the proper amount. But I'm not, I don't know if I'm as confident with the online version as I am with the desktop version, as far as it being able to give me reports so that I can easily fill out the sales tax return. So when you work in Colorado, every time you have a physical location, it has its own unique jurisdiction number, but you also have your own unique sub-account with the state of Colorado, and QuickBooks Online does not track your Colorado sub-account number, your location number. It does the jurisdiction code for you. Any other questions?
Yes. Someone wants your contact information, but
okay, we can provide that.
I think that was really the only one. What would you recommend over either the desktop or the QuickBooks Online version, which I think you just kind of went over?
And I think overall between they're both great. I think the online version probably is a little bit better with integration from with other software, other third-party softwares, importing data in. It's less forgivable if you make a mistake. It's harder to fix things than the desktop. And then it just depends on your industry. The QuickBooks Online is trying to get more robust with the type of like projects that you can track, things like that if you're in construction. The desktop is super great at that. So I think it really depends on the industry that you're in and the level of detail that you want as a business owner. Then you need to look at sort of the pros and cons of both. I can tell you that QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online is not going to do everything you want it to do. There's just going to be some things that you're going to have to find a workaround to do. Inventory is a great example. It may not track your inventory. It certainly may not track from the point where an order through delivery. That might be a different inventory system that you use other than QuickBooks. And I think that's it. Gosh, it's been a lot. Please look at the workbook. Make sure that you contact Hannah or the SBDC and get an appointment with Carol Johnson if you need a little bit more information. That was a lot to a lot to absorb. So
Perfect. Thank you so much, Susie. This was such valuable information. And we will be, like I said, we'll be sending out the information later this afternoon. And you can also access the 101 session on our website. I'll put a link to that in the email as well, just so it's all in one place. But you can always access our recordings on the video library on our website once they're processed and uploaded there. So we'll be sending you all the information that you need as follow-up, and want to give a big thank you to the City of Westminster for sponsoring this, and for to Susie and Colleen for helping us out with all this information. It's really quite amazing what QuickBooks can do for us. So when we set it up, like you're saying, set it up correctly and use it appropriately. So thank you so much.
it's an extraordinarily powerful tool.
Yeah, great,
Yeah.
great.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for joining. We wish you a great rest of your day.